Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm Gimli, and tonight my guests are, first up, the man that eats way too much and washes it down with a low-sugar drink. We all know the type. It's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
Tonight, I've mostly been eating 2 tins of tuna, some mashed potato and a tin of corn, all mixed up and microwaved. That's what I have when I'm ill. And a bottle of 0-calorie Lucozade.
See, there you go.
Yeah,
you might as well have put
right.
350 tonnes of mayo in it.
Actually, I had loads of salad cream in it. Tesco's low-calorie one. Because I've got to watch my waist.
And he wonders why he's obese.
You're not meant to be horrible to me. I'm ill.
You've been ill forever.
5 weeks.
Like, I got a cold, got rid of a cold, and then got another cold back. And you've been ill that whole time.
I got it off my daughter. She was ill for the whole of Christmas and was too lazy to get up and take a Lemsip, and now look, I'm paying the price.
I don't think that's going to get you out of it for some reason. But we'll move on.
Yeah.
Next up, all things holy, it's Raj Patel. Hello, Raj.
Hello, Gim. How you doing?
You sound vibrant and bubbly tonight, considering the week you just had.
Well, I mean, it's life, isn't it? What can you say? I'm back. I'm glad to be back. I've been away for a few weeks, so it's nice to be back for once.
Your words are still echoing in my ear from the last time. That 2 years of Arsene Wenger. I reckon that's going to come to a change in the summer. I reckon he's gone.
Well, I'm sure we'll be discussing that later on this evening.
And I'm sure you've got plenty to say about it. Right.
I haven't actually got much to say about it, because what's the point of copying and pasting everything I've said for the last 2 years? So I might let the others have a go, and then if they say something wrong, I'll butt in. But it's all a bit boring, isn't it, Gim?
Yeah, I'm gonna get the bucket out to catch the tears. Right. Yeah. Next up, Le Quiff. It's Simon Collings. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Gim. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. I was going to do your intro as a love us or hate us, well, obviously, but it's just normal this week, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're all a little down this week. Although Raj sounded chirpy, but I think
you did sound chirpy.
Yeah,
we'll have to get to the bottom as to why he's so chirpy. I think
DT chirpy. It's all false bollocks. Oh no, I didn't get a go last week, so I might say something this week.
Oh, even I was good last week. Right, and finally, his footballing journey started 23 years ago at Arsenal, and since then he's gone on to play for West Ham, Barnet and Cambridge, to name but a few. Joining us now, it's Omer Riza. Hello, Omer.
Roma.
Bring back memories there. Wow, 23 years. That's a long time. Hello, Gim. Hope you're well. Hope you're all well. Great to be on the show. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I think I asked you a couple of years back, and I never followed it up for some reason. Footballing about Arsenal and podcasting is crazy at times. We sit here for an hour and a half a week, and most weeks we cry, to be honest with you. So it's a pleasure to have you in and be part of that.
Don't lie. You just had bigger hitters to come on the show before me. You ran out of people.
Oh, no, that's rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Danny, save me. Let's have a little bit on Omer's career.
There's an actual syndrome for that, because Omer, I actually called Rami Shaban. I called him Shami Raman once, and I've never lived it down. And finally, Gimli has swapped the first 2 letters around, and now the onus is on him with his fake news. It's good. Rami was brilliant, yeah. Right, so... you started your career. It's on my records. I've got it here that you joined Arsenal in about the mid-90s. Is it about 95 you joined Arsenal?
Yeah, full time. I joined Arsenal in I think it was 96 season was the first full time as a scholar. But I was at the club from the age of 10. So yeah, but full time as a scholar, or YTS back then, was 96, I think.
So was there other clubs in for you at any point? Because I should say straight away that you're an Arsenal fan, aren't you?
Well, I had obviously I'd briefed before going into Arsenal. I mean, I was only 10 when I went in there, so the brief encounters I had with a couple of other clubs like Orient and Watford. And then whilst I was at Arsenal, obviously I had a lot of interest from other clubs as I got older. But no, once I went into Arsenal, I never had no other thoughts or intentions. I got tapped up a couple of times here and there at like schoolboy schoolboy level, just before going in for YTS, where I'd been offered more than what I was being offered at Arsenal. But, like I said, once you've been somewhere for a long time, it becomes your home and somewhere that you love, and never had any intentions of leaving the club ever.
Yeah, so it's I remember I've got all the Arsenal football yearbooks, and you were quite a goal machine back in your day. What was your earliest memories about mixing it with the reserves? Because I suppose that's really where your story would begin.
Yeah, it was. I did score a lot of goals through the youth levels, and then obviously you knew when you were getting somewhere when you had Geordie Armstrong, calling you up to play in the reserves and being one of the only youngsters to be playing, and I was playing with Sells and whatever other players there was playing from the first team at the time. It could have been a mix. Sometimes Dave Seaman was there if he'd been injured, or I remember one time we played West Ham at Highbury, I think, and we had everyone playing nearly. Me, Nicola Nelka, Mark Overmars. We had a strong defence. It was it was a pleasure to play in those games because you start to become a man, and you're feeling more like a man playing with those sorts of players.
Yeah. So were you always? Would you describe yourself as a striker or a forward? And was that always your position of choice?
Well, I love playing as a striker. I love playing on the shoulder of defenders. I was always very quick, very powerful, and I was used in that way, to make sure that my runs became a lot better as I got older. I was always told to watch players like Ian Wright. I watched Righty throughout my career growing up, and playing on the shoulder. I was a dangerous player. So yeah, I was a striker, but I got played. When I left Arsenal, I got played in other areas, like on the wings. I got played left wing, right wing. There wasn't really a number 10 then, where someone would go and sit in the pocket, or I play number 9 to hold up the ball at times, which it wasn't my forte, but I could do it because I was still strong enough. But yeah, I was a striker, but as I got a little bit more mature, I started to bring other people into the game more and a lot more assists. I never scored loads of goals as a senior player, 15, 20 a season at times, 15 maybe, but I assisted a lot.
Yeah, so going on to your first season where you were mixing it with the first team, unfortunately, you only ever got to make, well, I say only ever, I think most people listening to this podcast would dream of playing for Arsenal. You made your debut in the League Cup, 28th of October 1998. That was just after my 28th birthday. Away at Derby County, beat them 2-1, and you came on for... Do you remember who you came on for? I did have it written down, now I can't find it.
I can't remember. It might have been either Chris Ray or...
That was it. It was Chris
Ray, yeah?
Yeah.
It was Chris Ray or someone. I can't really recall. It was so brief. I think it was only a few minutes anyway. Which was, I loved it. And I was training very well with the first team at the time. And, in all honesty, looking back, I should have had a lot more appearances than I did at the club, with the way I was playing and sort of the people around me at the time, players-wise. I had attributes to be able to go and play. Before I left Arsenal, I should have had at least 10 appearances, I think, but it wasn't to be. And I had to move on.
Yeah, because I remember every time I used to go to the ground, I'd get the programme, and the first thing I'd do is flick to the back and have a look through the youth and the reserves and the combination league and to see who was doing what. So I'm just looking at that season. It was 98-99 that season. And they did a pre-season tour of like Bournemouth, Enfield, Luton, and then he went and played a few games in Germany. You weren't a sub in any. Well, the place I'm looking is a bit sparse when it comes into sub details. Were you involved in any of those tour games?
No, I don't think I was. I was involved in some of the friendly games like Bournemouth and stuff like that, if I can recall. I can't recall totally, but we were playing under 19s at the time and reserves, obviously. I was scoring a lot of goals. And are you talking about the start of that season when I've actually played, or?
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah, because you made your debut in the October and they played a few games. But I do remember, like you're saying there was back then there was always two lots of Arsenal touring. There was the Arsenal first touring, and then there was the Arsenal reserves. Because I remember seeing the Arsenal reserves go and play friendly against Chatteris.
That's right, yeah. And like I said, I was just on the fringes, I think then, and I think I went out on loan. I can't remember if I went out on loan to Den Haag that year. or it was the year after. It's a bit vague now.
After. It was February.
Was it a year after? Yeah,
February '99.
That's right. Yeah, so it got to the point where I needed some more experience. I went out to Holland. I think I scored 5 goals in 10 games or something like that, and came back. And I remember Wenger Arsene saying to me, go out, play well, come back, and be ready for pre-season. And for me, that was music to my ears. But some other sort of staff had other plans, I think. So that didn't happen. I felt people were being pushed in front of me at the time that shouldn't have been, and I had to make a decision. I got offered a new contract, and I decided not to take it, and that didn't go down too well, especially with Liam Brady at the club at the time. He was my youth development officer, if you like. It didn't go down too well. I don't think he's ever forgiven me for it, really.
So who would you say at that time was your main rival for the position of up-and-coming attacking player?
Well, I don't think at my age group I had any rival. I think, and in the reserves, I thought I was doing well. Like for someone who's come through at the club, I was top goal scorer in the under-19s, and I was, scoring goals in the reserves regularly. The only issue is that Arsenal was bringing in players, unrecognised players like Jihad Montassa, if you like, or Jihad Montassa, or Kabadiawara, Chrissy Ray, Fabian Caballero. And whilst these players were nicking the odd appearance here and there, that I should have been really getting those appearances looking back. Where they'd be playing 5-6 games, or I could have done the same thing. But at the time, obviously, they were a little bit older than me, and maybe that's where I wasn't patient enough.
Yeah, because it was on that tour of Germany the season before that. I think Wenger saw the likes of Mendes Rodriguez, and there was another bloke they got from like the German 3rd or 4th division. I remember thinking at the time, why are they bringing these players in when we've got so many young, hungry players that have been at the club for years? And those players never really. Stefan Moles, that was another one.
Stefan Moles. Yeah, I mean, I ended up playing with all these players in the reserves, and it was good because obviously they were older than me. But like I said, I was, Don Howe said to me, Don Givens, Don Howe turned around. I played one game against Coventry in the 19s, and I think I scored 4 goals. And he goes, "You're training with the first team. You're outperforming yourself in the reserves in the 19s. You're ready. You're ready to go now. But I'm not calling the shots. I was training, and Pat Rice, after finishing training, Pat Rice would come and say, you've impressed a lot of first team players, and I was getting closer, and I did. I was training all the time. I was involved in the Champions League. I was involved in the cup games and stuff like that. And then, I think Graham Barrett was there at the time. He managed to start getting some games in the 19s in the reserves, and I felt that things weren't right. It didn't feel right to me. Yeah, like I say, I had to make a very tough decision to walk away from the club, something I never ever wanted to do, but I felt I was left with no choice.
Yeah, according to Wikipedia, it says that you were substituting the Champions League games against Dynamo Kiev away at Kiev. Oh dear, I'm dying. And Panathinaikos. Now, I always think those games like that, I want to see the young players come on. And it really annoys me when Wenger will only use 1 or 2 subs in those games, and sometimes it's not to the last minute. Now, what did you feel like when you're on the bench in those 2 games where you should really have been brought on, or your mates should have come on? It must be so frustrating thinking I can go out there and I can do something.
In all honesty, like I could be really sort of honest now and sort of say that. I remember, I think it was the Panathinaikos game, and David Dean come up to me and said, "Remember, you've got everything to gain and nothing to lose, or you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain." I'm thinking, yeah, that's brilliant. That's just what I want to hear. I'm ready to go. I think Paolo played that day, and Greg was on the bench. I was on the bench, and I think Michael Black was on the bench, and he was going out with Pat Rice's daughter at the time, I think, and he actually got his debut there, or he come on in the Champions League. I looked at it again. I thought, maybe I should have had that opportunity. But it didn't happen, and it's not sour grapes. It's just when you look back, you think, well, there's not much more I could have done at that period, the way I was training and playing, other than being young and still being inexperienced and being a little bit more patient. When you see things happening that you feel is just not right, you get a gut feeling. You think, this is unfair or not right. You start to question everything that's going on around you.
Gim, didn't Jay Bothroyd say that when he was on that he feels that maybe he could have tried hard, when he does look back at it and say that it was he probably wasn't as professional as he could have been. Was he saying something like that about it? So it seems that Omer's is the complete opposite, where he was working his arse off and just didn't get the chances.
No, I think.
You know what I'm like at remembering stuff, so Jay probably didn't say any of that.
Jay said when he started his footballing career, if someone could have told him he could have played for Arsenal, he could have played for England and made a shed load of money, I think that wouldn't have been a too bad career. And he said he's proud that he's managed to do all of those things in his career. But I think he did say that maybe, there were times at Arsenal where he could have behaved himself a little bit better.
I think with Jay, Jay's a little bit younger than me, a few years younger, 2 or 3 years, I think. Jay's a little bit different to me. He was a very confident young man back in the day, and he probably could have behaved a little bit better. Been a little bit more professional about the way he did things, and that's somebody who was a little bit older, looking back in, and I can give that sort of view. But with myself, I was totally opposite. I was, through every age group, barring when I got to 17, 18, I was starting to hit some good heights within my career as a player. What I was achieving, but before that, I had to graft through every phase of my time, from schoolboys to school of excellence to schoolboys to YTS. Getting all those contracts for me was a real graft, and it, my whole career has always been about how hard I was prepared to work and how professional I was going to be. But just unfortunately at Arsenal, through I'm not going to say no fault of my own. Maybe I just wasn't good enough. Maybe I have to just say that, but. I just think there was things that could have been done a little bit differently.
I think most people who know anything about youth football at Arsenal over the years, I think it doesn't all depend on how good you are. I think sometimes it depends on who you know and who you're in favour with, and other people you're up against. But then 3 months after you made your debut for Arsenal, you went out on loan to play in Holland for, is it? I've got the page. Den Haag. That's it. So on your third game in, you scored 2 goals, got an assist, was fantastic, and then your 4th game you got sent off after 10 minutes.
Well, going back to that, like what you said a second ago. I mean, for instance, Jerome Anderson was an agent at Arsenal, and he was very good friends with David Dein, and he wanted me to be on the books for his agency. And looking, I ended up having a meeting and decided not to. And having, looking back, it was a big mistake, because if I had signed with Jerome Anderson, him being David Dean's right-hand man at the time, if you like, it might have catapulted me in a different way. But because I didn't, it might have worked negatively against me as well. So these are all things that sort of, when you're young, you don't really think about the impacts that these decisions make. But really, these decisions that you make shouldn't have an impact on whether you play or whether you don't. But unfortunately, they do, But yeah, so... Go on, sorry.
I'll say agents weren't as prominent back then as they are now, were they? So, I mean, I remember when Ian Wright went in, he said in his book that when he went in to sign for Arsenal, he signed the deal and then asked how much he was on.
Yeah. But the point I make about that is, if for instance, when I was at West Ham, when I was just, my contract was running out, and Glenn Roeder turned around and said, Omar, I think you could stay on here for another 2 or 3 years, but I can't talk to your father. But if you go through base, we can get a deal done. Well, I didn't go through base either, and it cost me a contract. These things happen, and they're not right, but they happen, and it can have it can be detrimental to your path if you like. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, went on loan to Den Haag, and had a great time out there. I was supposed to be going out there to get some experience because my boss sent me out there and said go and play and come back ready for pre-season. So for me, it was about getting experience and being ready for the following year. Never intending to walk away or leave the club.
So that game you got sent off after 10 minutes, was it your fault or?
Yeah, it was my fault because, well, you could say it was my fault. I say it was the ref's fault. You could say it was the player's fault. But, the player was kicking me for 10 minutes because obviously they'd known I was a bit of a danger already in the period I was out there. And they had centre half and he was just booting me all over the place from the minute the whistle went to the minute I got sent off. And the ball went down the line and he's half pulled me and I've just kicked him. And, I've got a straight red card. So, my fault because I got sent off. But it could have not happened, should I say, if the ref had dealt with things earlier.
Yeah, I suppose you were a visitor to their country and he expected you just to put up with it. I think that centre-back did get a booking during the game.
Oh, really?
I'm just looking at. I think his name was Wiggers, Wiggers. So yeah, he's centre-back and got a yellow card. But yeah. So then after that, you had a 3-game suspension, and then you came back. You were playing a kind of attacking midfield role there. So were you happy with how the rest of the season went? Because you had a pretty decent run for such a small team.
Yeah, well, I actually got sent off and missed 3 games, and then I had a knee problem. My knee, I think I had tendonitis in my knee, so I had to come back to the UK, and then I had to have an injection in my knee. I think it was a cortisone just to settle it down, but that put me out for another couple of weeks. Then I went back and finished the season off. Yeah, we done okay. We played some good stuff, and it was nice to go out there and play and get a different experience in a different country. They offered me a 3-year deal, and I thought, well, if I'm supposed to be going back and they know I'm going back, why are they offering me a 3-year deal? So, something else creeping into my mind then as well as, what's going on,
Yeah, does sound hard. And at that age, it's hard to know what to do, I suppose. I know back then when I would have been that age, I'd have had no idea what was going on. In fact, I think I'd been fired from 2 jobs by that time. So you come back and then you said you signed for Glenn Roeder's West Ham. Was he manager when you signed for them in 99? No,
what happened, I came back, the new season started, and I got offered a new contract at Arsenal. And it was basically, there was, I think, 6 of us who got offered pros, and everyone got offered 2 years. I got offered 1 year, but I excelled the year that they offered me the 1 year. I scored goals, obviously went on loan and done well. And they then offered me the 2nd year. And I said, well, hold on, you decided not to offer me 2 years like everyone else. I've played very well, and you're offering me this. And I don't see any sort of progression with what's gone on this year with sort of the other players around me. And I decided to move on. So that was how that come about. I was playing at Highbury against West Ham. And I think Frank Lampard Sr. was there at the time, and he was the assistant manager to Harry. And, they showed an interest. And I went there, and I was there for a couple of weeks, and then decided it was, I think I went for a nominal fee to West Ham, 3-year deal, I think it was. And
did you enjoy your time at West Ham?
Did I enjoy my time? It's a great club, but it was a waste. It was a waste of time, really. I mean, I do like the club. I do like the people there at the time. I was around the squad for most of the period of my time at the club, except for towards the end. I was training with the first team every day, so that that was good. But for me, by the end of it, by the time I'd left, I'd wasted really. I'd finished top goal scorer in the reserves for the period I was there, both seasons or 2.5 seasons, whatever it was. But no, I could have been out playing first team football because I had Portsmouth in the Championship at the time and Gillingham and clubs like that. Really, I should have gone there and got on with it.
What is that? Because in between,
go on. So, but when you're young and you want to achieve being a Premier League player, you're focused on that. So that's why really I went to West Ham.
And then you had 2 loan spells at the mighty Barnet, my Barnet boys. You got 4 goals in your 10 games in the 2 loan spells, and then you had a loan at Cambridge, and you got 3 and 12. And that loan at Cambridge led you having a move to Cambridge, which then kind of reinvigorated your career, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, every time I went out on loan or to Barnet or Den Haag or Cambridge, obviously I showed that, I had sort of capabilities to go and score goals and cause defences problems. But yeah, it was fun. It was enjoyable. It was really nice playing first team football and it meaning something instead of it being, playing reserves, you score, you don't score. You're doing it for yourself at the end of the day in those games. But when you're playing in a first team for a first team, it means something to the fans. It means something to the manager. It means something to your teammates, and it means something to yourself. So it was becoming real then, and then I went to Cambridge and had a full season. I think I played 55 games. I scored, I think, 20 goals or whatever it was. Got to the 3rd round of both cups, FA Cup, Coca-Cola Cup at the time. Got to the semi-finals of the Auto Windshield, I think it was called at the time. Scored goals in all those competitions. Had a good season.
And then you got a move to Turkey. I'm not going to try and I can say Trabzonspor. I just can't say the other team. So what's the team you signed for in Turkey?
I signed for a team called Denizlispor.
Yeah, I'd have fucked that up if I'd have tried to say that. So how did that move come about?
Well, I was at West Ham and I went and trained in Turkey for some Turkey under-21s because I didn't get called up for the any of the England call-ups at that age. I thought, I'll go and try my luck there, and it went well. We played. I scored a goal out there, and I think there was Super League team scouts out there watching, and that's how, or Super League team coaches or whatever, and that's how my it come about basically.
So did you enjoy your time over there? Well, I suppose you had to say that trying to find details of that is quite hard. But from what I found using, and this is from my other site, my own site, the first season 03-04, 23 games and 6 goals. Does that sound about right in the cup and the league?
I think it was 10 goals altogether that season. But yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, because
it's a little bit vague. Some of it's to find it and stuff, but. Yeah, he's there somewhere.
And then the next season, I've got down. You had 27 games and 8 goals, and the one after that, you halfway through this or partway through the season, you'd had four goals in 19 games, and then Trabzonspor came in for you. How did that come about?
Well, I'd become a household name out there really over the 2 years, and the third season when I scored 4 goals, I picked up a bad injury. I think I was out for a while. I broke my ankle. So it wasn't a great season, but there was interest from sort of the big clubs out there, and that come about. The club needed money. I was their biggest asset at the time, or one of their biggest assets. They needed the money, and they needed to bring in players. So I think I went for a couple of million to Trabzon and then they took 2 or 3 players on loan. In an exchange move as well, so it was a good deal for the club because they needed basically they sold 1 player and got 3 or 4 players in and money on top. So it was good for them and it was okay for me.
And you got a bit of taste of European football with them, didn't you?
Yeah, managed to play in Europe. We played. Who did we play? Osasuna. We played Apoel. We played. Galati as well. We done okay. We lost to Osasuna 1-0, I think, in over 2 legs, which we could have won there, really. Beat Apoel. I scored the winning goal there. But yeah, it was nice. It was a big club, big history in the country. At the time, I think they were one of only 4 teams to win the Super League. That's changed since then. And the fans are very, very passionate. And it was good, playing with top international players week in, week out. I mean, Anelka came out there at one stage. He was playing for Fenerbahce, so it's nice to catch up with him again. And then Rigobert Song, who I played with at West Ham, he was over there playing for Galatasaray. So yeah, played with great internationals out there, and it was a good experience.
If Raj or Simon have got any questions, Have you?
Yeah. I was going to say, Omar, you're talking about that at the point when you left Arsenal to go to West Ham. If you're looking back now, do you wish you'd either stayed at Arsenal to try and somehow fight for your place, or gone to another club instead of West Ham? Could you have gone somewhere else?
Yeah, I had options, but it wasn't. It was a case of I didn't feel that I was getting the backing of like if you like Liam Brady, if I'm honest, at the time, and I felt that the club wanted to sign me, to sell me, like they wanted me to, because there was interest from other clubs for me to go. But it was for a fee, obviously. I know Portsmouth had come in for £1 million. I think Jason Crowe ended up going there as well. And it was, I felt that they wanted to sign me, to sell me, and it wasn't to sign me so I can go and have another crack at another year, which I would have done anyway. But it just didn't feel I didn't feel right anymore, and I felt like I felt really let down, in all honesty. And no matter what anyone says, I still say to this day, for me to walk away from the club was a very, very tough call on my part. And it's, in a way, I wish I'd not done it, because I felt I severed some ties, and I've not been given the option to return to the club in any capacity since. And that's, that hurts a little bit, but I had to make a decision, and I was forced down that route.
There's also a lot of young players who you'll have played with, and in your lot when you come through. I know Jay, when he was on here, got asked about it. It's always difficult to say, but was anyone who you played with coming through the ranks who you were baffled by they didn't make it or didn't get a bigger move?
It's funny, because now, when you're in the academies and you because I've done all the roles, all different positions in academies, and you always hear people saying, "No, he's the one," or "He's the one," or "He's the one," or "She's the one," or "They're the next best thing," and you hear it over and over again. And during my time as a player, I always heard that every year someone was going to be the best player. For me, probably I was shocked when Terry Bowes didn't get a contract at Arsenal. He was like a golden child at a young age at the club. A little bit like the way Ryan Giggs played. He was a free spirit. The only problem we had back in the day is it was rigid systems like 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, or there was no number 10. There was no pocket. There was no, there was no place for free spirit. And I think, he didn't get nothing. I thought he maybe could have done.
And did you interact much with Wenger? What was he like around the training ground? What was it different when pre and post when he came in to take over?
I think he's quite calm, and he's precise in what he wants and what he says. He can be not intimate, that's the wrong word. He can be with players, individuals. He'll call players over and say what he wants and talk about what he wants from you and send you back out on the pitch, whereas Pat Rice would have been doing most of the coaching at the time, and he'd take the back seat, if you like, and just implement what he wanted to individuals. But before Wenger, I think it was Bruce Rioch, Jules Graham for a short period while I was in, and Bruce Rioch, and then obviously that changed. The way that he implemented certain things, he made people see differently. So it was good for us youngsters to see that early on in our careers, and I think it paved the way for us to become who it helped me to become who I became as a person, as a player. I had interactions with him, not as much as I would have liked. Like I said, I thought I should have had more opportunity than I did. But no, for me, what he's achieved is he's been brilliant at the club.
Any more questions?
I should just say, we had, of course, we had Jay on the other week, and he gave us a superb story about Graham Stack driving the team bus and putting the bus driver nearly through the windscreen. Is there any other little stories from your time at Arsenal from players where you've maybe messed around or got up to shenanigans?
It's probably, it's quite a few, but Yeah, my wife's here, so I can't talk about him probably.
You have to write a book.
Yeah. We had good times. We had good memories. We used to have a lad called Nando Perner in the youth team, and he was just we could get him to do anything, if you like. If there was a puddle in the street, we'd get him to stand like as if we were taking a picture. He was from Buckinghamshire, as if we were taking a picture of him, and a bus would drive past and soak him, and we'd have to clean the team bus in the week back at Highbury, and you got the turnstiles, and we made him go in, and he couldn't get out because it only goes round one way. There's loads of things, loads of silly games that we played, and I think if I sit down for a minute and think about them, there's endless. But at the minute, there's nothing like that I can talk about in front of my wife anyway.
Well, if they happen to spring to mind, then don't hesitate to pipe up and tell us. We'd love to hear them. I think we'll move on to the Ostersons game then. And Danny, we'll head over to you for this one. 2-1 home loss, and a very disappointing night, to say the least.
Yeah. It did kind of surprise me. I did say to people in the first leg, these team are no mugs. They've had 5 clean sheets in the 6 home Europa League games. But then we beat them 3-0, and then you thought, oh, they're going to come. They're going to be overwhelmed by the crowd and the situation and the whole atmosphere. But they didn't. It seems to be our players that were the ones that were overwhelmed by it all. I mean, it's not like we sent out a load of under-12s out there. We had so many full internationals playing, and I don't think any one of them had a decent game. It is absolutely shocking. And you got to ask yourself, why do these things keep happening? How did we not? That game had 5-0 written all over it. Even I was predicting. I'm always negative. Even I was predicting that we were gonna absolutely muller them. And I still, to this day, I've watched the game back and I've read reports on it and I've listened to other podcasts, and no one can actually figure out what happened or why it happened. But I just get the feeling that that it's just going to continue to happen. I was listening to the Andrew Arsblog was on another podcast last night, and my mum was here, and and he was going on about saying that my mum's a little Irish lady, and she's 74. She doesn't know anything about football, and she heard Andrew saying about that the manager this and the manager that, and my mum said, "Well, they've obviously got no respect for the manager. That's why they're all doing really bad." And I thought, well, that's it. That's got to be what it is. And if my mum, a little old lady who knows nothing about football, can figure that out, then that's maybe that is the only answer there is. Maybe that's what it is. But I think, all credit to Ostersons for doing what they did. They come in and they taught us a lesson. But how many times have we seen it where that teams will just run riot over us and make it silly? That's exactly what they did. It was ridiculous. And other than that, I don't know what else to say. I mean, we had more shots on goal, we had more possession, we had a higher pass success rate, we won more aerial battles, they had more tackles, we had 8 corners to their 4, and but they seem to want it more than what we did. I mean, it was almost got to the point where they would have been level. I think they were just a hair's breadth away at one point from making it 3-0. I mean, what can we do about that? And I don't see it ever getting any better.
No. And you say there it was a stronger team than I think we all expected. We all knew Mkhitaryan was going to play, but to name but a few players in there, we had Mkhitaryan, Wilshere, Welbeck, Bellerin. Raj, that should have been enough, shouldn't it? And why wasn't it?
It seemed like they were playing as if they'd been told they weren't going to be playing in the cup final 2 days later. And so they were just going through the motions. I think it was an awful performance. I thought Ostersons were well worth their money during the game. I thought they played so much better than us and were well up for it in front of their away crowd. It was full to the brim down there. But it's just intolerable that, these highly paid players, 50 grand, 60 grand, 100 grand a week are playing like that. And it does suggest to me now that, even though I've denied it in the past, but I think the dressing room has been lost. I don't think they're playing for the manager anymore. And certainly, I think I'm absolutely certain that they'd figured out they were playing in the cup final. They'd probably worked out amongst themselves that whoever played on that game wasn't going to get much of a game on Sunday. And that's how they played. It was awful. And it's a symptom of this whole season. I mean, you know, we've lost, I think, 13 games in all competitions. I might be wrong, but that's a hell of a lot of games for the Arsenal to lose in a season. And it's what we've been saying all along. There's no heart, there's no passion, there's no commitment, there's no drive or motivation in these players in a lot of the games that they play. So we're going to have got more to come, I think.
And Simon, Chambers at fault for both of the goals. Do you think he's Arsenal quality? Because he's looked really ropey at points this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's looked bereft of confidence is the main thing. Because, I mean, I know a lot of people saying when we first signed him, those first 2 or 3 games, he was fantastic, wasn't he? 3-4 years ago, he got called up to the England squad. For me, I just worry about him positionally when he's playing at the back there. He just seems to get caught out so much. Yeah, I think we'll obviously get on to Sunday. I thought he looked better in a back three. And I do wonder with him whether, you know, I saw him a bit when he was at Southampton before he came to us and he played right back for them. Obviously, you know, it's less pressure and things like that, but he looked like a very promising right back. And I just wonder why we don't give him a go there. I think Wenger's obviously wants him as a centre back, but we've seen Bellerin play so many minutes. Just to give Chambers a go there might be worth it, I think, because I don't think in that centre-back position he's quite got the maturity to grasp it there for Arsenal. I think he's really struggling.
And I've got a stat that can back that up. Arsenal have conceded 9 own goals since Chambers signed in August 2014, and he has been responsible for 33% of them, and that's 3. So what do you think of that, Simon?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not a good stat for him, is it? It's a shame, I think, and I think as well for him, his confidence has been hit a bit because, well, at one point it looked like he was going to be sold, similar with Mustafi. Then he signed a new deal. Then he only really plays in the Europa League and the Carabao Cup team, and it's a bit like what Raj was saying there, where those guys sort of knew they weren't in the cup final team. I think there's part of a problem with the squad is that everyone who plays in the Europa League team basically knows they're in the second team, the B team, and that automatically hits their confidence, and they think, right, well, I'm not in the first team. And I think a lot of them are suffering from that, where they just basically feel like, well, they're almost going through the motions.
And Omer, 2-0 down in the 23rd minute, and almost disbelief. I mean, what did you think watching that performance, being 2-0 down to Ostersunds at home, 23 minutes gone?
Yeah, it was a bit scary in all honesty, and it shouldn't really happen when the game's wrapped up like that. But on the other side of the coin, when you've got nothing to lose and you can just go for it, but you lose 5-0, it doesn't really matter. You know, it becomes hard to play against that sometimes. But when you've got something to lose, sometimes it can become a little bit more. You become more nervous and you do things very uncharacteristic of yourself. And at the end of the day, we know it's Arsenal, and these players are being paid millions of pounds to play. But it does happen. That's the only real thing I can put it down to. But you did make a good point that, you know, the players knew that they weren't playing in the final on Sunday, and it could have been detrimental, or it shouldn't have been. But, you know, it happens. I remember when I was at Shrewsbury and we played against Gillingham in the playoff final at Wembley, and I played in the semi-final against Bury. I played well, and, you know, the training before the game, before the final, I found out I weren't playing, and it knocked the wind out of me, and I couldn't really pick myself up. I did by the time kickoff came, and I came on, but it can happen. It can happen.
Raj, you've got a question?
Yeah, Omar, when you see these players not putting the effort in, you're watching it on TV, or if you're at the ground, you're watching it on the ground, knowing what you've gone through in your career, does it make you rage sometimes that they're wasting their opportunities when you could have had more opportunities with a bit of luck? Do you get a bit wound up by their lack of effort?
No, not really, because I honestly don't. I don't believe that. Like, I went to the cup final the other day, and I honestly don't believe that there was a lack of effort there. It might look and appear that way, but It was just they was just outshone by better players, better tactical awareness from the opposition manager, and you culminate those things together, and that's what you get. That's what it looks like, and that's one of the I was sitting at the game the other day, and with my son, and I just thought, I just can't believe this is how Arsenal are playing at the moment. It's sad to see, but we got beat by a better team, better players, better tactical knowledge of the game on that day, and we looked like we some players looked like they weren't trying, and it got to the point where heads dropped, and they sort of they didn't know what to do. I mean, the system changed from at one stage. I think he went to a diamond with Welbeck on the left. I think Iwobi on the right, and Wiltshire and Xhaka playing top and bottom of the diamond with Ozil and Aubameyang up top. And it was just they didn't know what they were doing. They were getting picked off. They were getting played through too easy. Centre halves, we played three at the back at the beginning of the game, and they just didn't split. They didn't penetrate. They didn't take the ball forwards. We couldn't even play through midfields to get on the half turn to play forwards. We got congested. We lost possession of the ball, and the only thing we resorted to the whole game was playing balls over the top for Aubameyang to run onto, which ran onto the keeper. There was just no idea about what we were doing, and it was hard to watch, really.
I can understand what you're saying, Omar, but and I can understand what you're saying about the City game, but the Östersund game, the players weren't their players weren't better than us on paper. They weren't better tactically trained than us. You'd have thought. No,
that game. Go on, sorry.
No, sorry. No, I'm just saying that I was referring more to the Östersund games where it's like, where's the passion? Where is everything that they've been taught to do? It's just kind of being left on the side of the pitch.
I think because that cup has become it's become a rubbish cup now. This is the way people look at this. This is how fans look at it. This is how players look at it. And they've gone out there and they haven't implemented what they should have done, and they haven't put themselves on the line. Maybe they didn't want to get injured for the Sunday. Maybe they were upset that they weren't playing or they weren't starting on the Sunday. Who knows? But it happened, and it shouldn't.
And Danny, Welbeck had 4 clear-cut chances and failed to score on every attempt. Is this another example of why he's not good enough and we will lose games if we play him up top?
I'm coming to the conclusion that how can we keep buying? I mean, Lacazette, probably one of the greatest strikers in a French league history. Yeah, feeder league. Aubameyang, easily one of the best 2 or 3 strikers in the Bundesliga. Now, all this time we've been giving Welbeck shit, and you look at Welbeck when he was at Man United. He was an England semi-regular, scored goals for England, did really well for Man United, comes to Arsenal, suddenly stops scoring goals and looks shit. Do you think maybe it's the way that we play football, and here we are all having a go at Welbeck? If he's not being given the supply to get the goals, then it's not really his fault, is it? And we've seen that if much better players like Lacazette and Aubameyang are not doing it, then maybe all this time, maybe we should apologise to Welbeck and all these other players. They're just not getting the service. Because
we shouldn't. He missed 4 clear-cut opportunities. He had the opportunity. He just couldn't finish his dinner, Danny.
Yeah, but likes of Giroud, he used to take, 6 or 7 shots per game to get 1 goal?
But at least Giroud scored.
Well, what was it? At one point, he was 1 goal in 19 games. I think sometimes we're a little bit too hard on some of the players, and I'd love Danny Welbeck to come good, just like I wanted Theo Walcott and the Ox to come good, and all these young English players. And I think they're getting ruined at Arsenal. But as to why he's doing it, I think it'd have to be confidence, a mixture of confidence and the team on the day.
I think with Welbeck, where he's not number 1 striker now. I think you'll find, as a striker, sometimes. I mean, I had it when I was at Trabzonspor. I was playing. No matter how well I played, I was out the following week, possibly if Fatih Tek or Gökdeniz, these players who went for 10, 15 million or 20 million to other clubs eventually. You start snatching at things, and you feel that you've got to overachieve and overplay in order to stay in the team. And you'll probably find with Welbeck at the minute, he's going through a bit of that. He's snatched at things because he's put himself under too much pressure. And again, whether you turn around and say, yeah, but these players are on like 100 grand a week or not, they're still human people and they still go through the same problems, So maybe that's his problem at the minute.
I think
maybe we should name that scenario as Hungry Hippo Football. You're so desperate, you're grabbing at everything and fucking it all up.
I think we've just coined a new footballing term, Danny.
Hungry Hippo, yeah.
Yeah, the Hungry Hippo. Well, I think with Welbeck as well, he's another funny one. He's got a contract renewal coming up. Obviously, he's probably not going to want anything under 100 grand a week. Omer, where do you sit on him? Do you offer him a new contract, or do you maybe accept that he's surplus now with Auber and Lacazette?
No, I think, in all honesty, I wouldn't have let Giroud go. I think that was crazy to let him go to Chelsea, being the striker that he is, and the way he plays is totally different to any of the strikers that we have there. Welbeck, I believe that he'll find his. He's a good player. He'll find his form again, but it might have to be under a different manager. I don't know. I think he's a good player. I think he needs more confidence again, and either the club builds that up again for him, or he'll have to move on.
Right then, we should go. I'll give you some more depressing stats, and Simon will come to you to talk about this one. Despite progressing to the next round, Arsenal have now lost each of their last 6 games in the knockout stages of European competitions. That's another shocking stat.
Yeah, Jesus, that is another worrying stat, especially with the draw we've got in the next round with AC Milan, who are, I think it's 12 games unbeaten now under Gattuso.
We're going to make it 7. Breaking records, but not the right ones.
Well, I think as well, I'm not sure, I can't remember the exact date of it, but after we won the first leg, I think that was the first time since 2011, 2012 that we've gone into the second leg of a European tie leading it. I need to check it, but which is another worrying stat. But yeah, I think the only plus for us in the next round is that we go to Milan first and have them at home for the second leg. I think that will suit us for that, but that's going to be a very, very tough tie. And the other thing, obviously, with Europa League, it's still only the last 16, so you've still got 3 more rounds till we get to the final, and this realistically our only chance of the Champions League, isn't it? So not good.
And Raj, were you happy with AC Milan?
We might as well play a big team rather than these little teams. I think if we're going to win this Europa League, we might as well just start playing these big teams and see what happens. Simon's quite right. I mean, there is an advantage of playing at home in the second leg, so we need to get something out of the game in the first leg. Is it San Siro? Have they moved now? I can't remember now, but
still San Siro. Yeah,
it's still the San Siro. So that'll be a big crowd. Gattuso's doing really well out there. They'll be well up for it, and hopefully we'll take good support over and try and get some sort of decent result, or not too big a defeat, and then come back and go at them in the second leg. So I'm relatively positive about that, and I'm quite looking forward to the game.
And I should go around all the panellists tonight and ask them if they think we can make it past AC Milan in the next round. Danny, we'll start with you. I take it that laugh just means a no.
Well, the only hope I've got is that my boys in Milan smash him in the derby just before we played, and that's the only chance we've got.
Sometimes really good, sometimes really shit.
Yeah, usually shit.
Right, Omer, do you think we can get past AC Milan?
I think we'll beat AC Milan. I think we'll beat them. Yeah. I think we'll drive them away. I think we'll put in a good, solid performance, get back to basics, and then we'll beat them at home. That's what I'm hoping anyway.
Yeah, let's hope. Raj?
Yeah, I've got a sneaky feeling we might sneak through that one. I think it'll be a narrow defeat or a draw, and then we'll go at them, and hopefully players like Aubameyang and especially Ozil will start playing like the players they're supposed to be.
Auber will be cup tied for that one.
Is he cup tied?
Yeah.
Oh, I will probably lose the tie then. We're fucked.
Fair enough.
We got Lacazette. We got Welbeck. Welbeck will come on form. He'll score. Hopefully, he'll get on the pitch and score. And I'm just being optimistic.
You've got to be optimistic, otherwise you cry. Simon?
I think we'll beat Milan as well. As Danny was saying, they've got they've got a big cup semi-final. I think it's tomorrow night. Then they've got the Milan derby. Then they've got us. They've got some big games before us, which I think will help us. And I think we might maybe have Lacazette back for the second leg. So I think we'll have enough to beat Milan. I still think it's quite a young team, as well as they're doing with Gattuso. A lot of it's with the young academy players. So I still do think on paper we've got a better 11 than them.
What do you think, Gim?
No, I don't. I don't think we'll beat them.
I think we're capable if we pull our finger out and play properly, because they're a crisis club. Their Chinese owners haven't lived up to what they're meant to do. They've got Berlusconi coming back into Italian politics, which is you see that last night, Raj? That was hilarious, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
And so we should do them, but I've got no confidence. If we were playing Barnet in the Anglo-Italian Cup final, I wouldn't expect us to win at the moment.
The thing is, you watch that game that we played on Thursday, and we lost to effectively a group of Swedish farmers. Now, AC Milan are completely a different animal, and I think if we go out there, and we won't take them lightly, of course we won't, but if we don't play to the best of our ability, we could get our asses handed to us big time.
Well, there you go.
But there
Hopefully
you go.
not.
No, hopefully not. Right then, the next thing to talk about. Oh, fucking no.
And good night, everybody.
Yeah, well, we'll just cut it short there. Should we just go straight to listener questions?
We should just go to questions, mate. I think we can answer everything we can tonight. So.
Well, we should just do this quick fire and have it over in 5 minutes.
That's not why people are listening, Gim. They want to hear our pain.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, we'll give them what they want. So our next game to discuss is our 3-0 Wembley loss to Man City in the Carabao Cup. And for his thoughts on the game and the day itself, we'll go to Simon.
Yeah, well, I think this is the bum card, isn't it? The poison chalice. Where to start, really? I mean, on the day, I was there a couple of hours before kickoff. I was working, but was nearby, and atmosphere was great. Loads of fans around the ground. You know, it was quite a nice sunny day. Lots of people having a drink. And then from about kickoff, it wasn't a nice day anymore. I actually thought for the first sort of 10, 15 minutes, we looked okay, I thought. And I didn't think City looked bang on it. It looked like we'd settled okay. Getting up amongst them, as I think people have seen now, the way Wigan did it is you've got to try and get at City and disrupt them rather than sit off. I think that's the only way you can do it, is to try and hassle them and unsettle them, a bit like teams used to do to Arsenal sort of 10 years ago or so. And then the first goal came, didn't it? And cock up from Mustafi, doesn't get back in time, too slow, perhaps doesn't realise you can't be offside from a goal kick. Aguero just nudges him. Great finish over Ospina. Mustafi then runs quicker than he did to get back over to the ref, complaining it's not a foul for me any day of the week. And still for that first half, I didn't think City were great. I know we were poor as well, but City weren't fully at it. And then second half, they clicked into gear, and we saw why they're the best team. Again, a bit slow on that corner. I know Wenger was moaning about offside, but for me, the criminal thing was Gundogan had so much time to take that ball and fire it across, and Kompany can turn it in. And then the third goal, Silva's one, with about 25 minutes to go. I mean, it was a fantastic goal. Sane absolutely had Bellerin in bits down the left, gets it in. Silva rolls his man and smashes it in, and that was a game over, wasn't it? Fans started going home then. You can't blame them. I mean, my brother was there as a fan. He left at 65 minutes. I was there working. He then rang me up pissed saying, "Can I get back in?" So I told him just to stay out there and go to find a pub because it will be easier than watching that. And the last 25 minutes was a stroll for Man City. And it sort of summed up for me the difference in class. I know Omar was saying about there and the players have available. I mean, we brought off the bench Welbeck. It won't be clashing out. It's no disrespect to them, but City were bringing off the bench Bernardo Silva and Gabriel Jesus. So outplayed on the day. I think City were only good for a half of it, but it's one of our worst performances I think people have seen from Arsenal in a long time. I was trying to do some ratings on it on the full time, and I didn't give anyone much above a sort of 5 or 6. And then for me, the worst was Mustafi and Xhaka. I thought were awful. Ozil went missing in a big game. Aubameyang got bullied by Kompany. I mean, you can go on, but I'll leave you guys to come in on that.
Right,
I'll tell you how off the ball Man City were. I was reading the Guardian report earlier on, and 8 of their players only got a 7, which isn't amazing marks to be quite honest. Shit, that's my phone. I better put it off. Hold on. Sorry.
That's a fine.
Yeah, it's a fine. Aguero got an 8. Company got a 9. And I think Silva got an 8. And all 3 of those were the goal scorers. So it wasn't as if they were on shit form. They literally cruised past us.
Yeah, they were. And they had Fernandinho went off as well after sort of 50 minutes. And if I'm sure you guys have seen City a bit this season, he's been their absolute linchpin. Yeah, even without him on the pitch, they still, you know, I mean, their midfield 3 was sort of Bernardo Silva, Gundogan, and De Bruyne. You know, it's all quite lightweight midfield 3. That there's no real enforcer in there, and they could get away with playing that. You know, they could get away with playing sort of 3 ball players in there.
And Raj, we'll go to you. Of course, it's not embarrassing to lose to Manchester City. I mean, they're a great team that will go on to achieve big things. I mean, I think they're an outside tip for the Champions League this season for me. But do you think it's the manner in which we lost that game that boils people's piss a little bit?
Absolutely. It does. You know, losing to City isn't the end of the world. Most teams lose to them. They're easily the best team in this country, and they're probably, as you say, they've got a very good chance of winning the Champions League if they got some luck on their side. Because Barcelona and Madrid are playing poorly at the moment, and I don't really rate Bayern Munich that much this year, and their only main challenger is PSG. But no matter how much you think of the League Cup final or the League Cup itself, you're playing in the final at Wembley in front of 90,000 people, of which 40,000 of them are your own Arsenal fans, and you've got an obligation to compete. And my big argument over the last 2 or 3 years is that we're not competing. I don't mind losing. I don't mind not winning the Premier League or whatever, but so long as we could compete, and that was the biggest failure for that team. They let themselves down, but more importantly, they let the fans down. I mean, you know, it's a long, very cold day, absolutely freezing, and they didn't put the effort in. And I think it's an absolutely disgraceful performance. I'd love to give individual comments about individual players, but as a team, they were absolutely shit, and they were an absolute disgrace to the badge.
Omer, who do you think's to blame for Sunday? Would you pin it on the players, the manager, the coaches, the fans? I mean, where's the blame game being pointed?
Well, it's definitely not the fans, because, you know, they've turned up to support their team at the end of the day, like they always do. Everyone's got an opinion, and you know, these opinions are strong in respect of whether they think Wenger should be there or not. But in respect of the game, I was just surprised, really, how many times Wenger changed things and the players not know what they're doing, or, you know, it just looked very disjointed to me. And, you know, putting aside whether they tried, whether they didn't try, I can't believe that I never went on the pitch. I can't think of one time that I went on the pitch and didn't try or didn't compete. You know, I just don't believe that's the case. It might come across that way, but I don't believe any player is playing in a cup final at Wembley would not compete and not want to do the best they can do. But, you know, obviously, like I said earlier, Man City were a level above, even though they didn't play as well as what they normally do. You know, they played 4-2-3-1 throughout the game. They knew what they were doing. They knew how to cause Arsenal a problem, and we didn't know. We just didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to play against them. You know, first 10 minutes we did okay. It was pretty even. If we'd scored that goal, I think was it 10-15 minutes. Aubameyang missed it. You know, the game could have been a little bit different, but I still feel we would have lost. But after that, it was just, you know, I mean, I was watching, and obviously now as a coach, you watch tactically what's going on. You watch what the players are doing. You try to see where you can gain an advantage and where you need to stop Man City. And so I'm looking at all that during the game, and we changed to a diamond. We put Welbeck out on the left. We put Iwobi on the right. Ozil played up top. He was basically non-existent, so the whole game. So he was never going to be able to impact anything Aubameyang was doing to get close to him, because he was just floating around. Wilshere was, everyone's saying he's trying, he's doing this, but I felt he wasted more energy, arguing with the ref than getting on with, getting his team and getting the boys, up for the job in hand. The back three were all over the place. First half, the first goal was ridiculous. I just don't know where, it was. I was sitting with my 11-year-old son, and I'm saying, Josh, I couldn't believe what we were seeing. It was very painful. I put that on Twitter the other day. It was just a painful game to watch. I felt Wenger didn't get the tactics right. He didn't make changes that could influence the game. Tactically or player-wise, and Man City just, bulldozed us basically.
And seeing as it's you, I'll stick with you, because you've been a coach and a player. One of the many things that the fans said about that performance on Sunday was that they just weren't motivated. And how can a team not be motivated for a final? So as a player and a manager, whose job is it to motivate the players, and who do you look to in that dressing room to get the guys up for the game, or do you look to the manager, or as a manager do you look to fire the players up for a game?
I think, if I come back to my own situation, like Orient, for instance, when everything was in tatters. I had players not nicking, but balls were being lost at the training ground, and things were going missing, and players didn't want to train, and senior players were thinking about boycotting stuff, and staff boycotting things and things like that. It's hard when you're doing a team talk to motivate those. Doesn't matter what you do. You're putting a team out. You've done the work. You can only motivate the way you feel is going to work. But if it's past that point, then there's not much you can do, So if it's got to that point now where, the manager's not able to motivate his team with the team talk, then yes, the players should be able to motivate themselves anyway and still remain professional and do their jobs properly. But, these players are earning so much money now. They're the bosses, really. They run the show.
Mm. And Danny, Sunday's game was probably our last really realistic attempt at silverware this season. And with a top 4 spot now out of reach, and probably definitely out of reach come Thursday, does this signal the time to finally get rid of Arsene Wenger?
Yeah, I did a list on the mighty Twitter of all the times I'd have sacked him. And I think I got to about 14, and then people replied, and then there was about another 20 that people on there. And then some Aston Villa, I think he might have been a journalist, he did one, and he got to about 40 odd games. And you think, well, the people who run the club probably didn't really understand what's going on. He thought, it's only 3-0, one field goal, and we're level. So that's what's probably going on there. But what amazes me is, Omer, you might be able to answer this being a manager. If you're 2-0 down, why would you continue? And they've only playing one striker up front. Why would you continue to play 3 centre backs and a holding midfielder? Why do you think Wenger didn't go, right, that's it, everyone forward, let's all attack?
Well, what difference does it make if you play 3 centre backs or 2 centre backs if they're playing a striker?
What do you mean? Only playing against one?
Yeah. What point are you trying to make? Because with 3 centre halves, it gives you the chance to split, get your 2 centre halves wide, which allows you to get on the ball, which allows your wing backs to push further up the field to receive the ball. So I don't think whether we had 3 centre halves or 2 centre halves with one striker, it would have made. It depends. It depends what your intentions are. If I'm playing 3, I like playing with 3 at the back. And I like to play 3 at the back because I like centre halves to drive into midfield to provoke opposition, to then be able to leave my midfielders free to receive the ball. So having 3 centre halves with one striker is a beneficial because you get on the ball more and you can play forwards. But if his intention wasn't to do that, which it didn't look like we were looking to play out, we tried to play out once or twice, and we nearly let goals in because of it. We just didn't have a clue what we were doing. But, you know, for me, 3 centre halves against the one should have worked. You're talking about having 2 centre halves because they got 1 up top, which then leaves 4 at the back. But then those 4 are deep, which means they don't get further forward. So the wing backs are not high because you haven't got wing backs now. You've got full backs, you know. So it just depends how you approach the game. And I thought we approached it very defensively. You know, we approached it to contain Man City, not to go and attack them.
That's the kind of point I was making. Why still try and contain them? I'd have had the 2 centre. I mean, I know nothing about football. I'd have the 2 centre backs. I'd have taken taken Ramsey off because he didn't look like he was match fit. I'd love to have seen Maitland-Niles running through the midfield, causing havoc, and have El Neni there, sweeping up in front at the back too, and then sort of kind of flood the midfield with players because. I mean, if Aguero's going to turn any of our centre backs inside out, so I'd have gone, oh, don't worry about defending. Let's just try and go out there and score a goal because Man City weren't on the top of their game yesterday. Like Raj was saying, only 3 of their players got above was it a 7 rating? And I think we just needed more creativity from midfield because Aubameyang looked like he was starved of any kind of build-up. And at one point in the second half, when we're 2-0 down, we spent 7% of that whatever time period it was, 7% in their half, or their attacking third. You just think, well, if
but the thing is, you say about like being more attack. I mean, we had Jack Wilshere and Ozil playing in behind Aubameyang, and we had 4 across the middle of the park. I mean, if that's not, you know, you basically got, you know, what is it, 4, 5, 7 players, you know, 7 players going forwards if you're doing it right. So we had enough players. We just couldn't. We didn't have enough movement. We didn't have enough. You know, we didn't make enough angles for each other. You know, to get on the ball, that's what Arsenal's all about.
So what would you have done with the substitutes available at 2-0 down? Would you have carried on with that, or you sound like you wouldn't have carried on with that?
No, I wouldn't have played with 1 up top anyway. You know, I wouldn't have played with Aubameyang up top. I don't like 1 up top. You know, in all honesty, I just don't. It becomes isolated, especially if you don't move up and down the pitch quickly enough, which we didn't. You know, the only way we looked to get forwards was through Bellerin or Monreal, and you know, it wasn't enough. We didn't play through midfield enough because we weren't, like I say, we didn't move enough. We didn't receive the ball on a half turn, and all those little things that you need to do to play forwards early, we didn't do. You know, centre halves didn't drive into midfield, which left midfielders free. You know, we didn't do none of that. So I would have played with 2 up top anyway. Ozil's not a striker. I know he plays in the pocket, but if he's not on his game, it's just, you know, which he wasn't. There's not enough support for Aubameyang. I would have played. You know, for me, it looked like we were playing, like I said, 2 in behind, and they weren't really close enough to him. They were still, you know, floating around trying to get on the ball. Jack Wilshere was dropping too deep and to get on the ball, and I don't know, it was all over the place. And then you bring on Walcott, Welbeck and Iwobi, and you put them on the wings. It just didn't make sense to me. But
did you see? Sorry, Simon. Did you see?
I was just going to say, quick, Omar. I know it's like the $1 million question, but how would you? I know you answered a bit there, but how would you set up for a Guardiola team if you were managing a side against him?
Well, he played 4-2-3-1 anyway. So, I mean, I like playing 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. You know, how would I set up? I don't really, you know. It's not. I think you're going with a game plan about what your team's going to do, and obviously, I like playing through the centre of the park, through midfield. But in order to do that, you have to provoke, and you have to make sure you're making angles for each other through that midfield area. You know, if you're going to play 3 at the back, one of those centre halves, when he gets the ball, has got to drive into midfield, and he's got to provoke. None of our centre halves done that. Every time our centre halves got the ball, they were just distributing into areas that allowed Man City to put us under pressure and shut us down anyway. So for me, I would have played 3-4-3, 3-5-2, like you say, have some numbers between the lines, defensive midfield, attacking midfield, penetrate early, and playing behind Man City when the time was right. But you can't do, for me, you know, you've got to play the 3 up top closer. So you play one that drifts into the pocket, and you get one that can go and make runs into wide areas, leaving one to be able to receive ball to feet. So you've got options all the time. You've got the pocket. You've got balls into channels, and you've got balls into feet, which then leaves Man City. It leaves them answering questions as well.
Right then, that's literally the last bullet point on my notes is where do we go from here, Danny?
The logical thing would be to maybe. You can't say sack Wenger because it's never going to happen. So that'd be like saying sign Ronaldo and Messi. It's unrealistic. It's not going to happen. There was rumours from someone on Twitter who knows somebody at the club that today something big was going to happen. As usual with Twitter, nothing big happened today. Well, as yet, we've got another 2.25 hours until the day is over. I just think we carry on doing it. The owner doesn't seem to want to change it. We've made some movements upstairs. We've taken some of the power away from Wenger from what we've read and heard. So maybe that's the future of just slowly, bit by bit, take away all of his power until he goes, that's it, I think I'm done here, and then get a new manager in. And then even when we get a new manager in, the manager's going to get 5 minutes, and if they don't turn everything round in the first game, then the new manager's going to get slaughtered. The fans are going to be on their back, and it's just modern fans, modern football, and I'm going to give up. There you go.
He's chucking the headset
Give
down.
up.
Yeah, Danny, you're going to have to put the headset back on because we're going to do some listener questions.
Oh, dear. Okay. Right. I'll start off with one for Omer from Noir Confidential. He says, if or when we go out of the Europa League, there will be no point in sacking Wenger since there will be nothing to play for anymore. I know this won't happen, but would you risk sacking Wenger before the Milan game?
No, I wouldn't be sacking Wenger before the Milan game. I don't think there's any point in Wenger leaving the club until the end of the season. I think whatever damage is done has been done. But I think everyone needs to just remember what Arsene Wenger has done and achieved at the club, and still remain respectful towards him. Yes, I do believe change might be necessary now. I would like for in Utopia, Wenger leaves, goes, maybe manages France in the national team, and goes on and has a good international career. We bring in somebody who's going to be able to make a difference. But no, I don't think, coming back to your question, I don't think it would be wise to sack Wenger now.
Okay. Gimli, one from Marcus Brown. He says, do you think the leaked names of possible managers to succeed Wenger is a sign he's leaving, or another smokescreen which ends up with another contract extension for Wenger?
No, we spoke about this in the WhatsApp group, didn't we?
I ignore it all.
No. I think Steve might have alluded to the fact that because of who it was that had leaked out the list of names, that maybe they were privy to or had been given some information from the club as to who they want to bring in. But seriously though, I've seen that list, and who put Brendan Rodgers on there? Jesus wept. Just no, I don't want Brendan Rodgers anywhere near my football club. He's got funny lips and he struggles at basic management. And let's be honest, I could go up to Scotland and win the league with Celtic. He's not fucking difficult. I don't want him. He is, out of everyone on that list, he is the one that goes, I will put the biggest, fattest X through.
Oh dear. Okay. This is one for you, Raj, from Nicky Wilson. He says, and I didn't know this. He says Ian Wright on Arscast last week said that Wenger refused Baldy's request to do more defensive training. Why is this? And should Baldy resign out of protest? And he says, #John Welsh is wrong. I didn't know Ian Wright was on Arscast.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to listen to that. I missed it.
Yeah, I missed that too. I'm going to have to listen to that as well. But Baldy's neutered, isn't he? I mean, he's not really. I don't know what he does at the club anymore. There's
he's a model for their hats.
Yeah, probably. Hat. I mean, I don't know whether Wenger stopped it from giving him more defensive training, but the way they're playing at the moment, it probably suggests that it might be true. There's just too much speculation now what's going to go on, and as Gimli said about managers and all that kind of stuff, and we don't know what's true. The only fact in all of this stuff is that we can go and talk about this for hours on hours. Is that the only man who will decide is Kroenke. Josh and Gazetas have got no real say in it whatsoever. They approached. Josh approached his dad last year and said maybe it's time for a change, and Kroenke immediately gave Wenger a 2-year contract. So everyone's talking about him going at the end of the season, or I just don't believe any of that stuff. I think that he'll be here for a while longer, to be quite honest, although it's very depressing to think of that. Did you know that the Man City game on Thursday is on general sale? When was the last time a Category A game was on general sale before the start of this season? Very rarely, hardly ever. And yet this season, season ticket holders, including myself, I've toured for 3 months, can't get rid of your seats, can't sell them.
I think Fife was offering to pay people 70 quid to come and sit next to him.
Well, I mean, a mate of mine, Reese, was trying to sell his seat for £96.50. I said, he got no chance. It's on general sale. There's cheaper tickets on sale, on general sale, of 45, 50 quid. And they're not being bought. So, the only thing that will change Kroenke's mind is money. And if we don't qualify for Champions League, and if our income goes down and the value of the club perhaps goes down a little bit, then he might do it. But I'm a bit gloomy about it all, to be quite honest. But since we've been talking about it all for the whole season from August onwards, I don't think nothing's going to. I don't think he'll get sacked this week, next week, or before AC Milan game or whatever. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if they don't get rid of him at the summer, because I think the board are a bit weak.
Raj, when's the season ticket renewal stuff out and the pricing and all that stuff?
Well, club level starts on Thursday. And then the regular season tickets start about 3.5 weeks later, 4 weeks later. And there won't be a huge uptake. The corporates might buy theirs because it's a good day out for their clients. But, they're going to have to be careful. The waiting list is a myth. I think if you apply for a season ticket during the summer, you'd probably get one.
Raj, would you say that people aren't coming to the game on Wednesday because it's City again on Thursday, because City have just thrashed us, or because it's on a Thursday, or a combination of everything?
It could be a combination of that. It could be a combination. It could be -2 on Thursday. That's going to put a few people off as well. But the crowds have been thinning over the months. I noticed it back in September. It's going to continue that way. They've bought their seats to the season ticket, but they've got every right not to exercise that choice of going to the game. And I know that people criticise them because they got season tickets and don't turn up and stuff. But to be quite honest, they own that seat for the year. They can do what they want with it, and they can't. And they certainly can't get rid of them at the moment.
You say people are not coming, but against the home game against Austin, so it's 58,405 people there apparently.
Yeah, but they include season tickets, don't they? We'll be talking about this for since we moved in. They'll say there's 50,000 people. They'll declare a crowd of 50,000 people, but it's not really a crowd of 50,000 people. There's only probably about 30,000 there. So there will be some empty seats on Thursday. Hopefully not as many as Ostersund's, and hopefully, there's a chance that we can't play that badly against the same team within 4 days.
Oh, we can. We will.
Do you think? Yes. Maybe I'm just living on some sort of boy's own kind of dreamland
thing. We're
more
depressed than we were before that game.
I mean, when you asked me for my prediction later on in this program, I'll tell you now, it's 3-1 to Man City. I'm going to give Arsenal a goal because they've got to improve from Sunday. But at the same time, you think there's no way they can play that badly 2 games in a row within the week against the same opposition.
That was a month ago.
That is true. But you just think
I'm only making it worse for myself.
No, I've got to see. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we do turn them over, because that's how we do it. We'll play shit 1 week, and then we play. My theory that we lose every other game at the moment is proving right. So, although we have lost 2 games in a row, but they've got to come up with something on Thursday, because if they're not, there'll be a riot. There'll be an absolute riot.
Question for... Are you ready, Omer?
Yeah, go on.
Right, from our mate Schwinn. He says, Omer, as one who understands the dressing room better than us, how does one... I don't know why he's saying one, he's been all posh. How does one help themselves and their teammates during a slump? Let's assume Wenger he's put Wenger with a V because I tweeted him earlier and said stop saying it with a W. Let's assume Wenger has done as much as he can. At what point do the players shoulder their own performance and attitude more importantly? Another brilliant question from Schwinn.
Like I said before, I think, looking at myself over my career, you know, you always prepare, you always go out on the pitch and you always, you know, give 100%. But, you know, when it gets to the point where, you know, like you say, that the manager is maybe not being able to motivate and not being able to get the team ready to go and play, yeah, you know, you get senior players and you get players, you know, getting around each other and making sure that they're doing things right. You know, getting back to basics, if you like, and make sure that you're all doing your own jobs, and first and foremost, making sure that you get your own job done properly before, you know, getting on to others. Yeah, you know, there is that element when, you know, you sometimes you take it upon yourself to say, you know what, this is not good enough. You know, I'm sure they're doing that now. I'm sure that the first team players are sitting there and talking, and, you know, whatever issues they've got are trying to iron them out and get them straight. Because, like I said, they don't want this. They don't want us to be having a debate about whether they're, you know, not trying hard, or why they're not scoring, or why they're not playing well, or this or that or the other. So, yeah, you know, you sometimes you take it upon yourselves and try and get it right.
I often say as a fan, oh, they're not trying, but does that just show that some of us fans have really no grasp on what's really going on? Because they can't go out there and not be trying, can they? That's just me talking nonsense as usual.
Yeah, I don't agree. I mean, look, you get the odd player, you know, like Sanchez, where he wanted to go, I suppose, and you could see in his game, his characteristics of how he plays normally and how he was playing. You can see that happens sometimes. It shouldn't happen. It's unprofessional, but it does happen. But in general, if you're at a club and, you know, you're playing for your badge and for your club, and you know no one wants to play bad. No one wants to not try, because at the end of the day, it comes back on you. I mean, at the end of the day, we are judging the players because of their performances. So that's the first thing you think about as a player is, I don't want to be judged in a negative way. I want to be judged for the good I'm doing, not the bad.
Yeah, I thought so. As usual, I know nothing. Simon, one for you from Jove82. Have we reached the point where Mustafi has to be replaced next season?
I think so for me. Yeah, I mean, he almost went in the last summer, didn't he?
Yeah, nearly went to Milan on loan, wasn't it?
We almost were going to loan him, which would have been absolutely fucking madness, which I think why it didn't happen. But his dad was saying that Mustafi was being offered round. He's been a bit of a flop. I mainly don't like him because he just seems to dive in all the time. He rushes out, he dives into tackles, he gives away fouls. And I've just not been impressed with him. I mean, the problem is we're going to take a huge loss on him, getting rid of him, because we're not going to get the 35 million back. There's no chance about that. I mean, you're looking at.
I mean, we're lacking. We're lacking that in general. You know, our centre halves. I know we go back to what we had. You know, that's the biggest problem, is that we're blessed with, you know, people like, you know, Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Kevin Campbell, just to name a few. Who had a real sort of input in the game when they played. You know, they were aggressive. They lack, like, Chambers not aggressive, Mustafi not aggressive. Even Koscielny the other day, like, I don't know if is he injured or what, but there was no aggression there. And, you know, for centre halves, if you're not aggressive and you're not booting when I played, I had centre halves kicking me all over the place. And when you're playing against that, it's difficult. And we didn't have that. We don't have that. All those centre halves are lacking that.
Okay, right. I'll give you another question, Omer, from Sri the Gooner. Is the fact that City brought on 3 attackers, and then he's in brackets, one of them being 17-year-old Phil Foden, as substitutes while, and quote marks, defending a lead in a cup final, the most embarrassing thing for us this season?
They were never defending a lead, were they? I mean,
yes.
You know, in all honesty, to that question, that for them it was about how many more they could score. which is how it should be. You should never. I always say best form of defence is attack. So I'm pretty similar to Pep Guardiola when it comes to that. But if they can afford to do it. I mean, there was never any. He's probably looking at the game saying, well, there's no real threat there of them scoring. They can't get around that. I mean, there was a time in the second half, I don't think we could even get out of our half. So, to put on attacking players that he trusts, it's not an issue at all,
Okay, one final question from K-Man Guna for everybody. He says, he aimed it at me, but I'll give it to everybody. Which managers would be on your shortlist to take over from Arsenal this summer? He says, Pep is on my ideal, but Jardim and Lowe would be fine second pickers in my opinion. Curious about yours. Simon, what's your... And I can't remember everybody, so have a quick think. Who would you have on your list?
If I could have anyone, I'd have Conte or Simeone would be my pick.
Oh, cheeky defensive. Raj?
It definitely wouldn't be Low because he scratched his balls and sniffed them. And
Doing that as we speak.
That is unforgivable. I've got no idea. I'm not an expert on managers and stuff. I just think we do need to change now.
Gimli, have you got one?
Yeah, I'd like to see Conte come in. I want someone with a little bit of passion. Do you know what I mean? Someone that's going to motivate the players and give them proper jobs and coach them properly. I know that doesn't just go down to the manager. But
and bollock them. The manager's going to bollock the players.
Omar, who would you have?
You
can't pick yourself.
No, I wished. I've got to get a job first, and I haven't got a job there. Probably at the minute there are all those that has been listed that you've said there. Obviously, they've been spoken about before, but I think Maurizio Sarri at Napoli, I think he's done a great job there, and they play like fantastic football. Probably someone like him. He's done a great job at Napoli, and I think if he could bring that, it's quite similar to his style of how Pep plays as well. I love how Pep Guardiola plays the game, and he's really similar. And he's not a name, and I say he's not a name. He's manager of Napoli, but I'd go for him.
Okay, before we go to predictions, Gim, I will pick a managing duo of Barry Fry and Dave Hillier. And Dave Hillier will be allowed to use all... Have you ever been kicked by Dave Hillier, Omar?
A couple of times, yeah.
Oh, you live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
I would have those two there. Just imagine it, the fun and japes from Fry, and Dave would not let any of those fuckers get away with anything. He'd rule them with a rod of steel, wouldn't he? Be brilliant. Gim, so we do predictions and I think gentlemen's nods.
Yes, we've got two this week, haven't we? We've got City at home and Brighton away. So if I could start by getting all your City home predictions. Omar, on this part of the show, we give basically 3-0. I've gone 3-0 Aguero for this week. So Danny, you can chalk me down on that. It's just we like to do a predictions league, and the one that's got the right gets a little trophy and bragging rights for the rest of the season. So we'll start with you then, Danny.
4-0 Aguero.
Beautiful. Raj?
3-1 Aguero.
Wonderful. Simon?
4-1 to City and De Bruyne.
Beautiful. And Omar?
I think we will focus on not letting in goals. So I would say... it's a tough one. 1-1 Aguero.
So did any of us give him a win?
Nope.
Beautiful. Nice to see we're positive. Brighton away then. Let's see a bit more of that positivity, lads. Omar, we'll start with you.
2-0 Arsenal. Aubameyang then.
Magnificent. Simon?
I think it's going to be 2-2. Glenn Murray will score first.
Shit.
Oh, you shit. I was going to say that.
That's me.
I need the points as well, so I'm going to have to change mine now.
Confidence is totally gone, isn't it? Confidence totally gone in the club. I see that.
Raj?
Well, I was going to say 1-0 Murray, but now that Simon said Murray, I'm going to have to go for Baldock. That's assuming Baldock plays.
There's no way we'll draw with Brighton.
Do you want to put a bet on it?
No way. No way.
No, there's no way we were going to lose to Ostersons. We managed that quite comfortably. Danny?
Well, a little stat here. Brighton have only lost 3 games at home this season, and we've only won 3 away. And Glenn Murray has, I think, 4 goals in his last 4 games. I'm going 1-1 Glenn Murray.
No,
What are you
And
doing,
That's what I was saying.
I'm going 2-1 to Arsenal, Aubameyang. So at least I'm going to give us the win for that one.
That's why you're bottom.
Yes, it is why I'm bottom. Go on, give me a shout out, you fat shit.
Mine's going to go to our friend Andrew at Arsblog. He's decided to do Patreon because he's not making money from adverts because people use ad blocker. And if anyone ever deserved to get the amount of content they've been putting out, it's his 16th anniversary. We've been going 5 years and we still don't know what we're doing. He does blogs and he does brilliant podcasts and great guests and all that other stuff. And he's a really nice bloke. And I'm always constantly amazed that if it's someone who's a brand new podcast, ask him to come on, he'll come on. He'll give them an hour of his time. And he did that with us at the beginning. And he said to us, if we ever need him again, he said, email. He sent me a tweet today. So if you never need me on, email me and let me know. So, don't need to go and give Arsblog a follow, but go and sign up to his Patreon. I'm personally have done, and there's another bloke who I'm digging deep and giving money to, and it just means they can do more content. And so if you donate $5 a month, and I think that's $7.20 a month with tax, then you get they're going to do a phone-in show. There's going to be an extra podcast. There's going to do special podcasts and all that other stuff. Not that he needs us to promote him, but he was brilliant with us, wasn't he, Gim?
Yeah, he was. He was an absolute gentleman when he came on. Gave us as much time. We've dropped him messages in the past, or can you come on and do a show? He's always been here. He's always been on time. He's always been polite. So we wish him all the best in his new venture.
And he was the man who made me want to start my own podcast with you, wasn't it?
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he the inspiration?
He certainly was. I thought, well, if he can do it, and maybe we can be 1% as good as he is. But that's enough of that.
I'm going to send him a cuss tweet now. I was stuck with you for 5 years.
Horrible pig.
Yeah, I know.
Get on with it.
Raj?
It's going to be at Cataphonics, Cataphonics. Don't know whether it's a he or she, but he or she always brightens up my timeline. Very funny person as well. Give him or her a follow.
Beautiful. Simon?
Mine's just going to the guys who did the radio show this Sunday, Jace, John and Carl, because I think all of us would have very an unenviable task doing that. And they do it after every game, and it's bloody great, even if you don't tune in live. I know a lot of people listen to it on the podcast that I do because I'm usually working, but fair play to them for doing it this week because that was an absolute slog to do that, so hats off to him.
What did you think to Jason Davis in HD?
Oh,
not pretty, was it?
I thought he looked older than what he's told us all.
I mean, I just heard a few fans saying they want it in 4K now. That's the next step.
That's the future.
I feel sorry for anyone that was watching that on a television bigger than 32 inches.
They want it in 3D. That's the next request as well.
Christ, you imagine having Welsh Justice in the room with you. I've been in a pub with him.
Oh, dear.
I know. Omer?
Yeah, sorry about that. I weren't listening. What's
None of us listen.
I was having. What was this about again? This bit?
Yeah, this is where we just give a shout out. Maybe it be someone on Twitter that you know that you like or you follow, or just someone that you know, or just anyone really.
Or your
just
cat, or milkman, or anything.
Just to the Bergkamp Wonderland for having me on tonight. You know, I think you're doing a great job at what you do. I've had the pleasure of spending an hour and a half with you guys today. And it's been nice to have a chat and a conversation with yourselves and people on Twitter, and all the fans of the club and in general. It's nice to have these chats and everyone give their opinion.
And thank you so much for coming on. We'd hope you'd come back if we've not scared you off too much.
No, of course I'd love to come back and have a chat about more Arsenal. Hopefully a lot more good stuff.
Yeah, hopefully when we're a bit better.
And on Twitter, it's your username. I got this wrong 3 times. It's O for Omer, and then Riza, then number 8, and then Riza again.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. I couldn't. Someone nicked my one already, so I couldn't put a basic Omer Riza in there, unfortunately.
Well, Dave Hillier spells Hillier with 2 R's at the end. That's just got nowhere.
Yeah, never mind.
The swines. My shout out this week is going to at Shove Drum Warrior, who is at SHOVDRUM. WARROIOR, sorry. And you might know him as Shovel from M People, and he is going to be joining us on the show on March 13th. We've managed to secure him with a little help from Strutter.
Hey!
Yes. It's funny how we said the same thing for him.
That's it.
No, it was Gav has hooked us up with another wonderful guest. So we look forward to having him on the show on March 13th. And yes, we're moving on up, people.
Oh, well, I'm waiting for Kate to sing it in the background.
Kate, do you want to sing it in the background?
Moving on up, we're moving on out.
She's not doing it.
She did it, and that's going to go live. Well, that's not going to go live, but that's going to go to thousands of people. You just made a tit out of yourself. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Oh, hoi, hoi, cheeky monkeys, and here's a little bit of shenanigans from before the podcast started.
This is therapy, boys. That's the way I look at it. Coming on here and talking to you about bitching about Arsenal and having a good old whinge. Therapy.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm recording. I'm all ready to go. Don't do the roundups, Gim. We'll just get straight into it.
Okie
Do the
dokie.
intros, and then I'll just do a bit about Omer's career, and then we can go on and have a moan and a cry and a group hug.
Yep. Okay. Right. So we'll start then.
Just checking on that one.
Who's doing the summary for the game?
Right. So Simon's got Ostersund, and Raj, you've got.
Oh, I don't want to do summaries, mate. I fucking hate them.
We can get Danny to do a summary.
Yeah, go on, do Danny. Danny doesn't do them. Yeah, do Danny.
Raj,
Yeah.
where's your phone?
It's switched off. I switched it off ages ago.
There. You just switched.
reckon
Oh,
he's
I've got the power on.
Oh, that
Sorry.
might be it.
Yeah, I've taken the power off now.
Okay.
He's getting reverb off the Rocher.
No, I don't really want to do too much talking. I'm still getting over bronchitis.
Okay, Omar, do you want to talk about the show?
No, not really.
The game.
The game.
No,
sorry.
you can talk about.
Why
the
don't
game.
you do it, Gim?
Yeah.
I
wanna
don't
see
fucking
what- I
want
wanna
to
see.
talk about it. I turned
Oh.
it off in the 65th minute.
I want to see what you know.
Just give it to Simon. He was there, for God's sake.
Yeah, Simon,
Why doesn't Simon just do a summary of both games and we'll just go into it? We're going to talk. We know what we're going to talk about.
he rocks up and he makes it difficult, Danny. See?
It's not good.
Right.
So that's on 35, 36. Save that. Yeah, I can do the Ostersons one if you want, because that would be short and sweet.
All
And
right,
then
Oster.
Simon can
Danny
have the glory job.
Lovely.
Great.
Right, so whenever you're ready, Gim. It's 8:30, so we go for an hour and a half, hopefully.
Yeah,
Steve
and
isn't
then
here to carpenter it.
I haven't even had dinner yet. Right, so anyway, 3. Hold on, I've got to clear my throat. Pardon me.
Remember to mute yourself, Raj, when you're doing your sexy breathing and coughing. That'll do.
3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp.
And here's some more shenanigans after the podcast ended.
Thank you so much for listening and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
Hello to Jason Isaacs.
Hello to Jason Davis.
Isaacs.
Davis.
Think it's on cold fruit. Right, that's it. We're done now.
Lovely.
Sorry we
Cheers,
didn't
gents.
get to the rest of your career. We can go over that maybe next time, but we thought
No worries.
it's getting late and Gimli needs his bed.
No problem, mate.
What we
No
do
problem.
now, if we just talk bollocks the next 5 minutes and we put it in the extras after the show, so you can hang around flat if you want, or you can go because you've been with us over 2 hours, 2 and a bit hours. Bloody hell!
And we try
Yeah,
not to
enjoyed
take
it.
the piss.
Cheers,
Yeah.
gents. Been brilliant.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, if we didn't ask you if you wanted to plug anything. Was there anything?
No matter. No, it's fine. Doesn't matter next time.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. So
Okay.
at the moment. All right, mate. Top man.
Thank you very much for joining
Thank you,
us.
Emma. Thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you all. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers, Andrew. Bye-bye.
There you go. An hour, just an hour and a half. God, we've never done it so quick.
No, I thought that worked out all right in the end.
Yeah.
Very good.
Did you eat all your fruit rolls, Raj?
No, it was a kilo of fruit and nut.
sounded a bit throaty there. Have you been ill?
I did. I had the same thing as Gim. I had a cold, got rid of it, and then got a cold again. It was mental, and then it was just like coughing up catarrh for about a month.
Yeah, horrible green shit.
The 30 Marlboro Lights don't help though.
You're meant to quit.
Hey,
you're meant to be quitting.
Well, I never said I'm going to quit.
I told you you're quitting.
Nah, I'm never going to quit at all. What's
Well,
the
you
point?
quit your wheelchair then, and he'll quit
I
up
will.
the bags.
I'm off to Mars.
You stand, I'll stop.
That sounds like a
Yeah,
fair
that's it. That's a slogan for a promotion we can run. You stand, I'll stop.
That's the title of tonight's podcast.
Yeah.
Well, you two need to carry on doing stuff for the pod. We can't have you both getting ill and being all throaty and coughing up.
I'm available. I'm available in 2 weeks. I'm now in Dubai next week. I've got a last minute booking for the QE2. So I'm back in 2 weeks if you need me, and then probably the week after that as well, I think. So
I'm just having a piss there. I'm just gonna go and have a look at our little listy poo. You all right, Simon? You in a hurry? Do you need to go?
No, I'm all good.
Right, I'm just gonna go and go through my database of information.
The emails to Lauren have been dropped,
Yeah.
by the way, and we are trying to figure out a date that is suitable for everybody. I've told him a Tuesday, might possibly have to be a Monday, but he's an invincible, so we'll do whatever fucking day. If he wants to do Sunday at 3 o'clock in the morning, by God, we'll be there.
He did a thing on Sky Sports. He's very well spoken. And he is rock fucking hard. He's training with the Gracies doing kickboxing, and he looks. He's got the body of me when I was 20. He's just all muscle. Lauren.
Ralph.
Yeah, he was supposed to be back in his day. He was supposed to be one of the few players that was renowned for don't fuck with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Lovely
didn't
bloke
Freddie
as well.
Lundberg go on Match of the Day and said something like, "Well, I was always all right because I had Lauren."
Yeah, he was supposed to be an absolute nutter. He used to play with. You have to ask about him. He used to play with. Apparently, he used to play with a peseta, whatever the old Spanish currency was called. He used to have a lucky one in his sock, apparently.
Peseta.
Potato.
He used to play with one in his sock, apparently, for good luck.
Raj, we got a spot open on the 13th of March with Gav and Shovel.
Yeah, I could do that. I'm basically from the 13th of March. I'm available for 4 weeks consecutively for 13th of March onwards, and then.
So, do you want to be on with Gav and Shovel?
Yeah. Whack me on. Yeah, I'll do 13th of March.
So I like I like hearing your voice.
I'll put it in the diary now, and then I'm away all of April. I'm on tour again in April, so.
Okay, excellent.
That's all right. We'll all have hung ourselves by then, Raj. So I wouldn't worry.
Yeah, I want to be on the pod the day that we find out Wenger's leaving.
Well, it'll be a bloody party.
Yes, exactly.
I had a mate of mine round here the other night. He'd heard of you.
Who's that?
His name is Barry Mitchell. He was the bass guitarist for Queen for about a year or so.
What, Queen tribute, you mean? Not Queen?
No,
Queen.
the Queen. He was there. He did tell me that. I've known him for. He came to the last game at Highbury with me. He's been to about 50 games with me.
Oh, well, we're in Cambridge. We're in Cambridge in April.
Oh, I said
you're in Caerphilly soon, aren't you?
Yeah, you can come if you want. Caerphilly, we're in July, sometime in July.
I know, seriously. I really want to go to that one.
Sorry, June 15th is Caerphilly, and Cambridge is the 8th of April.
And if the listeners...
I want to bring my dear old mum, Raj. She wants to come and see you guys.
Yeah, bring her. Just remind me near the time. I'll sort you out some comps.
And do the listeners get a discount if they mention ABW, Raj, if they're listening to this?
No.
Oh, excellent. Usual 0% family discount.
Exactly.
And a blank look.
Yeah, exactly. I've given enough comps out to Arsenal fans. If people know me from Arsenal and they want the ticket, it's not a problem.
Oh,
so basically, what we've done is we've announced Raj's tour dates. We've announced that a really big guest is coming on.
We announced the Boomerang.
It's moving on up. Oh. Sorry to use the same shit joke twice.
I got told off by Ian Lee for doing that. I got a timeout in his YouTube live chat.
Did you really?
Yeah, I said he was on about isolation tanks, and I said Joe Rogan does that, and I was talking to him, I rang up the show, this was last week, and then I was talking to him, and I was using the chat window because he does it all on live on YouTube like we do. And I was talking to him, and I said, yeah, Joe Rogan does it, but when he does the isolation tank, he does mushrooms. And he went, mushrooms? I said, yeah, apparently mushrooms I'd eat in an isolation tank is fried mushrooms. And then I said it again a minute later, and he went, you said the same thing twice now, it's not funny, you're banned. So I got a 300-second timeout.
Well, he sounds like a barrel of laughs.
He is. He's horrible to people, and that's what makes him special.
I saw him on that celebrity program, and I thought he was a jerk.
No, he's not.
Well, I'm going to take your opinion over my own formulated opinion. Yeah, Ian Lee, what a man.
We're going to get Kate to do some more singing?
No. Definitely not.
Oh, yeah, there was something. So we've got next week. He's going to be Holick, Steve, and Fife. Fife will cancel because that's just what he does. He's probably.
Do you reckon Fife will cancel?
Knee deep in Fragua. He'll have no choice.
He hasn't done one for a while.
No, I said to him, he's organising all of his personal stuff, isn't he? Can't say what it is in case he hasn't told people. But I'm making arrangements.
And as soon as the operation is finished, he will come out as Andrella.
So I said to him, no, don't worry about coming on for a while because you've got stuff to sort out.
Do you think as a lady he'll have 4 birthdays instead of the normal 2 that he has now?
That is probably,
because that's a woman's prerogative.
Yeah, well, modern society he has to have at least 4. And the week after that, Gav, Shovel and Raj. The Jock book special is going to be Jock, OG and Holick because they both had a hand in it. And the history special is Mark and Andy. I think Tim might be there for that. And Gav's granddad or great granddad was at that. Yeah, the old grounding. That's what the new book is about. I think it's the beginning of Highbury in 1916, possibly, or it was before we went to Highbury and we were still at what was it called? I always think of the word Oxford. Oxford's ground, Manor Ground. That's it. I think actually the book is about the Manor Ground, not about Highbury. So it's before we moved to Highbury.
And so, Simon, you had a birthday this week. Did you get anything nice?
What did I get for my birthday? Pretty rock and roll. I got a new suitcase.
Oh,
pretty exciting.
What colour?
Like a sort of dark black, like a wheelie one.
Couldn't have gone red. Couldn't have gone red. Could you? Were you embarrassed?
Yeah, no. I didn't have a say in it. It was just given to me. I got what else did I get? New jumper.
You like a jumper, didn't you?
Lots of drinks. Had about 10 pints on Saturday watching the rugby, and then had to get up at 7:30 to play football. Very, very hungover, and then go to work afterwards. So that was a fucking struggle. But
sounds like you had a better day than Jason. All he got for his birthday was anal beads and lube.
Oh, I know. 26
the Welsh
years.
lose?
26 years old now, so.
You're 26.
26, yeah.
I feel so fucking old.
When I was 26, we hadn't even started the 98 double season. We were still shit. I think George Graham had only just left.
The Everton 98 game where Adams got the 4-0 was my first ever Arsenal game.
That is my favourite game in my favourite season with my favourite team and my favourite goal. I was there.
That's 6. Didn't see any of the fucking goals because everyone kept standing up. So
fuckers, should have been with me. You could have stood up all you wanted.
Yeah, I know. I should have been in a wheelchair. Would have been easier.
Yeah, that would have been. And with some of the cunts that are in there faking it. Who was that boxer?
That's that Liverpool game, isn't it? That Liverpool game where someone scores in front of the cop and all the people in the wheelchairs stand up.
Yeah, there was some of them. Who was that bloke? Was it Watson, the boxer? Whenever he turned up, he'd have about 8 people with him. You think, well, fucking hold on a second. You lot don't need to be there. There was one bloke, I shit you not, he used to turn up in a hospital bed and take up the space of 5 wheelchairs as he laid on his side in his hospital bed. And he had about
now you know how I feel when I go to Tesco's and I have to park half a mile away from the shop.
With your little legs. You should get a blue badge because you've got little legs.
Tiny brain.
They've brain it all.
Right.
Yes.
Right, we're going to end these extras. So that
I better go.
Yeah, so we can talk proper.
Oh, talk shit for the next hour or so.
don't say that, Raj. You make me feel sad when you bully us.
30 seconds. And this Jason and his anal, why does he need lube?
Grip.
Do you know what I mean?
It's got to end on that.
I think
actually, Raj,
yeah.
while you're here, I heard that you brought FK with you tonight.
No, do not do that. No more being horrible. We'll get a YouTube
I've been banned from doing that.
Yes. No more bullying. We're very strict on it now, and that includes bullying me.
But that's not bullying if we're friends.
Loosest sense of the word. Go on in, Raj. Thank you very much for joining us. It's good to have you back on.
Cheers. Yeah, talk to you soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.